So this is a new thing for us, Jay. We're going to talk about Borderlands 3. 1 year ago-ish, we
Yeah,
had
I
our
think it actually
dreams.
came out like the 18th, is it, or something like that?
Is
I can't
that
remember.
right?
I'll check. Hang on,
Let's
I'll
have a
check.
little
I'll check.
gander. Let's have
I'll
a little
check.
gander.
September 13th. There we go.
So
So
a year ago and nearly a
yeah,
week.
almost
A year
53
and 6
weeks.
days? Yeah, a year and 6 days ago, we finally had our dreams come true. We got the last piece of the Borderlands
Yeah.
pie.
Different time a year ago, tell you. Completely different time.
Different world. Different world.
Completely different. So free.
So we finally got Borderlands 3, Jay. I think we both loved the main game, I'd say.
Massively.
Yeah?
Got pretty emotional at the end.
Yep. Great song. Great
Which is
song
weird.
choice.
Yeah, it was weird, but yeah. But that was like the perfect choice for that. Yeah,
Oh, so good.
that was perfect. Yeah.
Jay, I don't suppose you like the Sanctuary song, do you?
Yeah, it's fine.
I don't get it. I love it, and nobody else gets it.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I get it. I get what I mean.
It's
For me,
vibey.
it's more of like a nostalgia thing, right?
Maybe, sure.
I don't know, because they've always had that, haven't they? Or do they change it?
I mean, I think it's written for this one.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know. I think all the music in it is brilliant. I haven't had a complaint since.
Oh, you know what? That's such a great point to bring up at the start of this little special, Jay. The music in this game and all its DLCs is 10 out of 10.
Yeah, no, it is. There's very stylized for each DLC, and then also for the game and where you are. Like the
Dude,
music when you go to the sort of what's the planet? The Jacob's place, like the swampy kind of area.
Oh, yeah, God knows, we're not going to get it.
Yeah, but yeah, like they sort of make it as kind of like very like banjo-y and kind of very TK kind of vibes.
TK, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Whereas the first couple of games, I would say the music is more background music. This
Yeah,
one
it's very
really takes
samey
center
too. There wasn't too
stage.
much of a difference in music. Like there was usually like one or two tracks and didn't really diverge from it. Like, just in the
Uh,
first game, I'd say.
yeah, agreed.
Definitely got better though after that. Yeah.
Oh, dude, and like the DLCs, you jump in, you're like, oh, this track is phenomenal. Oh, just
And even with like just bosses too. Bosses had like special themes and stuff.
it was awesome.
They have that in
Well,
fighting games. That usually is a very big plus for fighting games.
fair,
One of the
fair.
bigger ideas to have in there.
So we haven't done this before, Jay, but we felt that it was a good thing to look over the last year of Borderlands 3, how it's changed via updates, via DLCs, via our thoughts on it, how we think about it now compared to a year ago. And we generally, I think, want more of these discussions happening because more and more games are changing as time goes on. It's no longer a here's the game, it's out, this is what it is. It's more like no, it's just going to completely change every year. And like Battlefront 2, for instance, is just a completely different beast to what it was when it released 2017. So
Yeah, massively. Yeah.
yeah, so
I
we
think
wanted to just go
the
on.
progression in how this game has changed over the last year is definitely a good model that a lot of games could follow and should follow.
Amen to
Like
that.
the balancing that's been done and the addition of different modes and DLC stuff and characters. It's just like a really well paced update system over the last year. Like there hasn't been too much of a gap anywhere. Like every week there's something going on primarily. So whether it be an update or a balance change or something.
Well, let's dive into it from a broad point of view.
Yeah, definitely broad. If we
So
go too
we've
into
got
detail, it would be a hit all day.
that is true. So let me just lay out kind
Yeah.
of what I think we've received, and you hit me up if I've missed anything. So we've got fixes, bugs, improvements, patches, balancing, just general updates to the game, right?
Mhm.
We've then got free, I would say, event DLC,
Mhm.
free sort of little title
I mean, even
updates.
the free, like smaller DLC, like event DLCs, were good because of how much content. I think they actually had like equally the amount of content that most of the paid for DLCs have in terms of like weapon choices. Maybe not of like because they were usually just one mission long. These events, like the Halloween one was
Yeah,
like one long mission, and the same with the cartel one. But in terms
yeah,
of like the amount of legendaries they let you have and weapon choices and stuff was equally as good. So I was happy about that.
fair. I wouldn't know, but I'm glad to hear. And then we have the paid DLCs.
Yes.
And like you say, Jay, I mean, what a way to support a game.
Hmm.
You're just getting more and more of what you want. You're getting fixes, you're getting more DLC, you're getting free DLC. What is there to complain about?
I think now that I've thought about it, I think the Love Guns and Tentacles DLC was probably the best one.
Correct. Which is what I did say, but
I
it's
think
fine.
the more I think about it, if I actually really think back, I think that one was definitely the most well put together one.
I agree.
I think primarily just with the amount of side quests and how filling they were. Side quests didn't feel short; they felt really substantial.
Correct.
I think that's what a lot of the other DLCs probably were missing. Is
right, and
more
we haven't.
meaty side quests.
I mean, this relates directly into the last DLC, which we wanted to cover on this little special, Jay.
Mm-hmm.
The Psycho Krieg and that fantastic clusterfuck. No, Fustercluck.
There we go. Yeah, I knew you were going to get it mixed.
Oh, dude, the title is so good.
Honestly, you can say it either way, and we know what you meant, so it's fine.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Because I think that had some of the worst Borderlands side quests ever.
Yeah, I think that was probably on purpose, honestly.
Because they ran out of time?
No, I think it was just because they wanted you to maybe more concentrate on the actual main part of it.
Yeah, sure.
The side quests to me kind of felt more like a gimmick. Like they were deliberately small just to be they were kind of like the game was kind of trolling you in quotes. Like there was one side quest where you literally had to make people who were on fire cold and then back on fire again. And I was like, yeah, you can tell that's like a troll side quest. They did that as that was like Borderlands 3 humor funny, which is what I actually loved about that in particular. Like those kind of side quests, I'd like if they had like 2 or 3 of those every DLC. So I feel like they definitely had that in the Tentacles DLC with like the claptrap sort of side quests. They were like funny ones. They were like deliberately funny, and the guy who was strapped to the rocket as well, like deliberately funny. Like it just makes sense. If they had that every DLC, I'd be happy. I'd be more happy than I am, I guess. But
yeah, I like a couple of those side quests, but I don't want necessarily every side quest to be that. Which I think
we're potentially maybe asking for a bit too much at that point. Like you're probably asking for more like 3 larger DLCs rather than 4 medium DLCs, which is what we got really.
Yeah, I'm not. To be fair, if I'm very happy with the length of the last DLC.
How did we get 5 DLCs? So we got
four.
Jackpot, Moxie.
Okay, no.
Tentacles.
Moxie's heist of the Hats of Jackpot. Guns, Love, and Tentacles.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
Bounty of Blood, Psycho Krieg.
Okay, for some reason I split those 2 up. I don't know why I did that.
That's cool.
Yeah, okay.
So I think we both think the second one, Guns, Love, and Tentacles, is the best.
I think it probably goes 2, 1, 4, 3 for me, probably.
I would agree with that.
Potentially 3, 4, but it depends.
I was going to say potentially
diagonally.
Diagonally.
2,
3. No, 2, 4, 1, 3.
Okay. I actually thought the first one was probably the meatiest one. Like the first one was definitely the longest one. The first one takes forever to finish.
Are you crazy? Guns, Love, and Tentacles takes forever.
No, that was probably my second. Actually, that was the third quickest one. Second slowest. So I guess it still took time. It was. It's third quickest.
You confused me now.
So
oh my god.
It was long, but it wasn't that long in comparison to the first one.
Okay.
The first one took me like 6 or 7 hours. It took me forever. Maybe longer. Maybe like 8 or 10.
Yeah, no, it was about 6 or 7 hours, but Guns, Love, and Tentacles was like at least 8 for everything, I'd say.
Yeah, okay, fine.
There was a lot of backtracking for me because of a glitch achievement-ish, but that's fine.
Sure.
I like reflecting on all these DLCs now, Jay, a year later, and the game in general.
It's weird how we've gone for the DLCs first.
They're the main thing, aren't they? They're the thing that comes to mind first. Yeah, they're the most recent kind of... I've spoken about this a lot, Jay, and I mean a lot. But I still love bringing up the fact that we've digested this similar to a TV show. You know, we've waited a week, brackets 3 months for each DLC, and we've consumed it as it's come, instead of just doing the Odyssey thing and just binging everything. And I like that because it gives it its own identity, room to breathe. You can really think about each DLC. You can separate it in your mind. Yeah. What do you think?
No, I agree. I'm actually curious how I would have felt about the DLC had I binged it instead. I think
Sure.
I could have. You literally, I think the DLC is good enough for it to be its. If you played 1 through 4 DLC, it'd be the equivalent of a whole game again, wouldn't it? Like it'd
I
be the
mean, it
equivalent of
definitely,
the whole of the
yeah,
main campaign.
it'd be meaty, wouldn't
It'd
it?
be somewhere between 8, 16, 30, somewhere between 32 and like 50 hours,
No way.
depending on how much of it you did. If you did everything meticulously, it'd take you a long time, I think.
I think it would take you between 15 and 20 hours, to be fair.
What, for all 4?
Yeah, like, let's say with not doing everything.
Yeah, not doing everything, probably somewhere between 15 and 20. Maybe doing everything, maybe like 35 to 40 then.
Yeah, fine, 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 fine.
We'll go with that.
That
We'll
is
go with
long,
that.
isn't it?
That is a long time. It's a whole game. That's the same amount of time I spent on Death Stranding.
So did you find the DLCs meaty, Jay? As someone who plays a lot of DLCs,
The first 2 were meaty, the second 2 were not so much meaty.
do you think that was to do with the scheduling and things like COVID?
Yeah,
Or
probably. More than likely. They probably just couldn't get enough done. Either that or they maybe had that scheduled in the first place. Maybe they just wanted to like spend more time on the first 2 and less
sure.
time on the second 2.
Were you annoyed about that? The lack of length in the second two?
Not necessarily. To me, I definitely think that the DLCs on previous games were better than all these combined. But that's just nostalgia, I guess.
Oh, really? Yeah, no, I think a couple of these are really special.
I'd say the most special one is probably Tentacles.
Yeah, yeah.
The first DLC was like obviously next, but I mean they are pretty special. But um, maybe they won't be special to us until there's a level of nostalgia there. To an extent, like they're only as good as they are now. But if 5 years from now, they'll probably be a lot higher in our minds because we'll have had fond memories of them.
Correct. And I think it's a fair point to raise, Jay, because I think Borderlands DLC's been pretty top since the first game, to be fair.
I don't think there's a single bad DLC.
Of
Like
the whole
legit,
franchise.
the whole franchise. There isn't a single. Like you'd literally have to name one for me to be like that's bad, but I don't think there is one. I'd say
Fair
actually my
point.
favorite is Zed's Island.
Right, which is the very first one.
It's the best DLC out of all of them. It's my favorite one.
Borderlands DLC has always been really good. And I think
It's so spot on.
these 4 continue the trend. The price is justified. You
Oh,
have a great
massively.
time
Yeah.
with them. It's more of what you want. It's different. Some of them are themed. Most of them are themed. Go on.
Here's a question: did you buy the season pass separately, or did you buy the deluxe version of the game?
I bought the season pass separately.
So you bought the base game and then the season pass.
Long story short, I reviewed the base game, so I got it for free.
Cheeky. I'm
Well, it's
curious
part-
actually whether it would be cheaper to buy the combined
I think
thing
I
or to do it
looked.
separately.
I think I looked, and it's cheaper to get the deluxe.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I think they cut off like a $5 or a $10 or something.
Yeah,
Like
I think it's cheap to get the. Did you get the deluxe?
I got the most expensive one.
Jesus.
Whatever
Okay.
one that was, like 90 quid or whatever it was. But
You got the one with the butt stallion pack. No, I don't even know.
well,
No.
technically the second expensive because the most expensive one was like that whole bloody crate.
Oh, right, sure.
That was like 300 quid or something ridiculous. But yeah,
Was that with the claptrap or was that pre-sequel? I can't remember. I
that
think
was
that's
pre-sequel. Yeah, this one
Yeah.
was like an actual like red case that you open in game or whatever.
Oh, like a red chest. Oh,
Chest, that's
fine.
what I meant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay. So let's just try and break this down in a logical order, Jay. So, core game. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts a year later? What's your reflections on the main campaign, the main villains, blah, 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 your experience with it? Do you see it as high as Borderlands 1 and 2 and pre-sequel? Do you see it as a next step to those? What are your thoughts on the main campaign a year later?
I think Borderlands 3 is the best Borderlands game only because it is basically the improvement of the last 3 games combined, right? It takes elements from all 3 games and improves them to their best capabilities. Like, you know how you have like the slow-mo when you're in space parts? That's all from pre-sequel. And then I guess just like gunplay, loot capabilities, character abilities, like that's all just improvements on previous iterations. And graphically too, it's improved massively. I would say the story is probably equally as good as previous ones. They didn't improve much on that, I'd say. Not really. I mean, it kind of stayed. But the thing is, you can't really improve much on something that's already good. Does that make sense? Like the comedy aspect of it is kind of what makes it. It's kind of like the story kind of has to be at least somewhat bad to be funnily good. If that makes sense. Like it's not so bad that it's bad. It's just so bad that it's good. But not in a bad way. I know that sounds like such a weird way of explaining it. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, so you're thinking, I get what you're saying, because Handsome Jack, like, what's the motivation behind Borderlands 2? Handsome Jack's a psychopath and he wants to kill you all. That doesn't sound very fun on paper, but playing through the game, it's so silly, it's fun.
Yeah, it kind of plays itself out, doesn't it? Because of how
Yeah,
wacky it
exactly.
is. Yeah,
Exactly.
you get the enjoyment out of how wacky the game is and how stupid
Yeah.
it is. It's kind of like I shouldn't say it's so bad it's good. It's so stupid it's good.
Yeah.
That's probably
Yeah.
the best way to explain it. Like it's so just psycho and crazy that it's just brilliant to
Well, on the
experience.
topic of the story elements, I agree with you in the sense that I don't think it necessarily exceeds Borderlands 2. In fact, I would say Borderlands 2 has a better, more well written story
More
and
than
villain
likely, yeah.
than 3, but I still liked the story of 3 quite a bit, and I didn't hate the villains like a lot of people did. Did you hate the villains?
No, I liked them a lot actually. I thought they were very important in the
Yeah.
grander scheme of Borderlands. I think if anything, this game kind of actually made you care more about the side characters than actually the main characters. Like
Go
you
on.
learned so much about other characters rather than either yourself or like the little girl or whatever. Like you learned more. You learned so much more
Yeah.
about Maya. You learned
Yeah.
so much more about
Reese.
Krieg
Yeah.
and whatever the Technomancer name is. I forgot her name.
Oh,
The
oh
girl.
no. Yeah. Is it begin with C?
It's not Cage or something, is it? No. Damn it, I forgot her name.
Is it
Tina. You learn a lot about Tina. You learn a lot about
Tina?
Brick. You learn a lot about Mordecai. You just learn so much more about that, like the universe in general. So that's one of my biggest uh,
Gage?
gauge. There you go.
Gage.
There you go. Yeah, you just learn so much about the side characters. I would say this is probably the least claptrap I've seen in a Borderlands.
Yeah, that was one of the issues for me about Borderlands 3. I found him more annoying in this game than funny.
I wouldn't say annoying. He just wasn't around as much as what I remember him being in the previous games.
Yeah,
Like I
yeah.
feel like Borderlands 2 was like, no, Borderlands 1 was probably the most claptrap you see in a game, but Borderlands 2 definitely was still a lot. But then 3 was just a lot less. It was more about the other characters, and claptrap was just sort of like the funny, like comedic guy that was sometimes around.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Just like the funny pet that you just had, like showed up once in a while. It's just cool,
Consi-
it's fine.
yeah. Considering that we had 3 Borderlands games before this, and like that excitement of the cell shading, the gun gameplay, loot cycle has already been around for some time now. I think you forget how well you have to do as a game developer to make a 4th game or 3rd
See,
game and make it exciting still.
this is what amazes me about. I keep talking about Marvel Avengers, but imagine being Marvel Avengers and not getting the loot system right when you've had a Borderlands that's got the loot system right every time.
Yeah.
They have never failed the loot system ever. It's been perfect every time. There
Yeah.
may have been some issues potentially with like maybe balancing, but other than that, it's fine. Like they've made that loot grind fun and not boring at all. I will say there's probably some issue for me just because it wasn't very easy to get the good stuff back in the day, and it's a lot easier to get it now. But I will say Borderlands 3 is definitely more for the casual Borderlands player.
Would you?
Like, Borderlands 2 was the hardest Borderlands to actually like do good at.
Oh, dude, it's so hard.
It's easy to be
So
good in
hard.
Borderlands 1, very
Yeah.
easy to be good in pre-sequel, but very difficult to be good in 2. But 3 is the easiest Borderlands to play by far.
For perspective, I got to my 3rd playthrough as Zero on Borderlands 2 and literally couldn't progress
Yeah, me
because my
too. I got stuck.
character just couldn't kill enemies.
Nope, couldn't do it. I died too
Just
quickly.
just couldn't do it. That was it.
Yeah. Yeah, I will say the loot got a bit ridiculous. Like it started to get into like the millions of numbers, and I was like, yeah, it's gonna be ridiculous now. Like
Yeah.
keep it fairly low, like in
Yeah,
the
they had like what, like 4 new game pluses in Borderlands 2 in the end?
yeah. I think I think the max shield you could get was like 999999999. Just kept going. It was
That's
so dumb.
crazy.
Yeah, it was so dumb.
But yeah, you're right. Borderlands 3, going back to your original point, Jay, I think Borderlands 3 is the culmination of everything,
Yeah,
and
it
they
is the
deliver.
perfect version of 1, 2, and pre-sequel put together.
Yeah.
It's perfect. Yeah, great.
And I think if even if you do disagree with the story, the execution of the story, the villains, you cannot deny that the gameplay is probably just
Yeah, it makes up for it
oh, it's
massively.
just so good.
Hmm.
So good. So you feel good about the game. Do you feel nostalgic about it yet?
Maybe I feel a little bit nostalgic of the main campaign, nothing else.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So
Only barely though, because I obviously completed it about a year ago, so
yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
only been about a year.
How do you see Moxie's heist now?
It's starting to get there.
Starting to get that nostalgic hit.
Very, like it's so minimal that it's barely there. Like Love Gun and Tentacles hasn't even touched it, so
Sure,
it
sure.
won't do for at least another year.
And
Like I feel
Bounty
like
of
a year is like a good amount enough time for me to start to feel slightly nostalgic about something.
yeah. And we discussed Bounty of Blood, but we haven't really, Jay, discussed Psycho Krieg. So let's talk about it. What do you think of it?
I loved how they went into the whole Maya story. That definitely like made me think this DLC is like up there. That was perfect because that's all I've ever wanted is them to go more into detail with why Krieg is the way he is, I guess. And I completely forgot that he had a sane side. I remember there was a lore audio from maybe Borderlands 2 that went more into more detail about that, but it was like so long ago that I could barely remember it. So
Well, Jay, listen quickly. I never played as Krieg in Borderlands 2. Am I right in
probably my
saying
favorite
that?
Borderlands 2 character, legit.
Okay,
He's
so
so fun.
am I right in saying that he like a bit like Avengers, like he just came as an additional character you can start a campaign as, like
Yeah, I'm
play through
pretty
the
sure
game
he
as.
was the last DLC character that came out of Borderlands 2. Yeah.
And when you pick him, I don't suppose you start differently. Like it's still the same campaign, right?
Yep, still the same.
Right. Okay.
He's actually
And
probably
you're
the hardest character to actually play with because he dies very. He's a glass cannon, a lot of damage, he dies very easily.
and you're saying that the him and Gage was so popular as just updated Vault Hunter characters that
Yeah,
they needed, or the fans wanted them included in these DLCs just from the dialogue they heard from the game of playing as them.
yeah. So funnily enough, those two characters um, are more popular than the actual some of the other Borderlands 2 characters. So
Yes,
much so they didn't actually include them in any of the more recent games.
which is a bit harsh, I thought, but
Yeah, so the ones they didn't include were Salvador
yeah.
and Axton. No, Axton was in it a little bit. It was just Salvador. The only time we've ever seen Salvador is in Borderlands 2 and nowhere else. Every other character has made it into Borderlands 3.
And
The only
that's
character
weird
who
to me.
hasn't is Salvador. Yeah, every other character has. Actually, that's a lie. Obviously, Athena, Wilhelm, Nisha, and Claptrap has. Jack has. Aurelia has as well. So yeah, apart from Athena, Wilhelm, Nisha, and Salvador, every other character's been in it. Yeah, that's been insane. It does kind of surprise me actually.
So they included these characters. So I didn't know anything about Krieg
Oh,
going into
Krieg
this
is so fun,
DLC.
my guy, my god.
Did he, like you say, did he have a
Mm.
sane side when you play as him?
Yeah, no, when you play as him, no, but there is some like deep lore that if you find hidden away, I'm pretty sure there was one at least that spoke about it.
Right. Okay.
They
But
also
when you,
spoke about Dr. Benedict as well, about that whole past of him becoming psycho and stuff.
I
So
was gonna say because I knew that it was gonna do that, but I didn't know if the fans wanted to know how his backstory. I didn't know if that was what
I
fans
did.
wanted.
I don't know about a
Right.
lot, but me specifically, yeah, I was like, Krieg seems to me like the most interesting. He's to me, Krieg is probably one of my favorite characters, definitely top three.
What makes him so interesting?
I like melee characters.
Okay.
He's kind of a melee character. Like a lot of his class stuff revolves around him being able to throw his axe or at least melee with his axe. So I like Zero. I like Krieg because they're both melee characters. They're just more for like to me the idea of bringing a knife to a gunfight is just funny to me. So I've always loved that.
Didn't you
Yeah.
find his sane one a bit too James Bond posh? Didn't you?
Well, no, that's what I liked about him is that someone so put together
Normal?
could be
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
changed, could be flipped in something so crazy. It just seemed to me so
yeah,
outlandish, but for the good reasons rather than the bad, I guess.
yeah.
I mean,
So what did
he
you
was a Crimson Raider. Like the fact that he was involved with that is insane. I just love that.
so what did you think about the DLC?
No, I really loved it. I thought it was perfect in terms of like visual stuff. It was definitely probably one of the most visually appealing ones we've had alongside Guns and Tentacles. Definitely, like Guns and Tentacles and this Krieg one are probably my two favorites in terms of how they look and also how the story turns out as well. Like the story and the visuals are like the best bits about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the story's delivered well, and I remember when you first get into that first world, I was like, "Oh, this is cool. This is cool." You know, with the well, actually, I suppose can you pick? No, it goes in chronological order. Yeah,
Yeah,
you know
that's
the
correct.
first bit I'm talking about with
Yeah,
the
do you
meat.
mean is it the meaty kind of stuff? Yeah,
Yeah,
with all the
yeah,
eyeballs.
yeah,
Did you like realize all the eyeballs follow you?
yeah. I did.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
creeped me out. Like, oh my god,
yeah. That's cool.
that was
That's
really cool.
cool.
I like that a
I
lot.
was
Yeah.
then thinking about the technical aspect, and I wondered whether every eye in the level is following you at all
Oh,
times,
it
or whether
is.
you,
Yeah, it is. I
right, right.
checked. I did this thing where there's a skull like really high up with two eyeballs in it, and when you look up at it and you move, you can still see the eyeballs move. So even when you're looking away, they technically still follow you.
Wow,
Yeah, it's creepy as hell.
wow.
So creepy.
Yeah, yeah. That
I like
was
that a
weird.
lot. I kind of want them to go more gruesome with it, even though it was like pretty gruesome. I wanted them to go even more gruesome.
The train was cool
More.
as
Yeah,
expected.
the train boss itself was cool, but the lead up to it was a bit not as much. It was just like a load of train tracks. It was
I
a bit.
liked it.
It was okay. I feel like they could have gone a bit more dreamy with it,
See, I
like a
didn't
bit
really like the
more
boss
kind of like.
fight.
Yeah, the boss fight was fine. I mean, I was on. I killed him within seconds anyway, so it didn't really matter.
Sure, sure.
But yeah, no, it was
Ma-
fine. It was
Mate,
fine.
I gotta get your opinion on this boss fight, the final boss fight, because I was on Mayhem 1 and it took me like 35 minutes.
I was on Mayhem 10, and it took me 10.
You're on Mayhem 10.
Yeah, I did it in about probably like between 8 and 9 minutes, maybe.
I need to change my build. I need to change my build. Are you grinding for the best weapons in the game?
Not at the minute. I've kind of like gone off that a little bit.
Oh, you must have way
Every
better
other
weapons than
DLC,
me.
I have every single. I have every single legendary weapon in the game, apart from the most recent DLC.
You're saying you're that powerful that no, as Mayhem 10, you're still just demolishing everyone.
Yeah, so on Mayhem 10, it should take anywhere from 2 to 4 pulls of a trigger to kill one enemy. But that only includes like smaller enemies. So larger enemies take anywhere from 5 shots and above, I'd say, and that includes bosses. But I can kill most bosses in 3 to 5 shots, depending on the weapon. But that's only because I've sort of like cheated the system to an extent. Like
What do you mean?
my build works in such a way that it kind of like works off of things that haven't been fixed. Like
I
they're kind of
understand.
like, which I think they've actually fixed most of that now. So I don't know if that even applies to my character anymore.
I
There was
get you.
basically like a glitch where every time you got a critical hit, there was a mini nuke that went off, but the mini nuke glitched where it went off more times than it should have done, so it did more damage than it should have done. But I think they've fixed that now, so you can't do it anymore. So
Okay.
I haven't tested whether or not how fast I can kill a boss anymore. So I don't
Did
know.
you find the secret vault within the Valhalla? Yeah, that was cool. That was cool.
I don't know if I actually
Bit
found the
stressful.
end one because I didn't get the achievement for it, so I don't know. I saw it, but I don't know if I actually went in it.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I don't think I think I saw it, but I wouldn't. I think I might
Have you done the button press shoot shot all the buttons?
I thought I did, but I must have missed one
Okay. All
because I
right.
didn't get to the end, so I don't know.
Yeah, it's
I'll get there eventually. So
yeah, no, you can go back and do it, but it was stressful, but yeah, no, that was
I bet.
fine.
Yeah.
It was,
I thought I
yeah.
was smart. I thought, oh yeah, I definitely got all these. Nope, I must have missed one.
Oh, dude, you got to watch the video. You have to watch
Yeah,
the
yeah.
video because
I must
some
have
of them
shot
are
like 10 of
ridiculous.
them, but yeah,
There's like 20. It's
yeah. Well, there you
ridiculous.
go. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that was cool though, Valhalla and all that stuff. But yeah, I liked it as well.
Yeah, it kind of almost made him feel like he was more like a Mad Max character.
Yeah,
Because his
yeah,
character is definitely very much like a Mad Max type
yeah.
looking character, like with the whole like Like in the film, they have that Valhalla place they go to once they die or whatever, right? As long as they die inside of a car, they go to this Valhalla place or whatever. But yeah, that
I
kind
did
of thing.
find the general story a bit predictable. Oh, he wants to leave, he's gonna stay, whatever. But do you think Krieg himself will come back and you'll see a mixture of a psycho sane guy, or because they basically come together at the end, don't they?
Yeah,
So
yeah, they do. I think they have the potential to bring him back, but they probably won't. They'll probably leave him where he is, happy in his place with Maya, which I kind of hope they do. I kind of hope he doesn't come back and he just stays in his happy place.
was that a thing in Borderlands 2, by the way, that they had a relationship or something,
Um,
or have they just developed that in this DLC?
yeah,
Really?
they definitely developed it a little bit more. I want to say that it was. I don't know if they were like together because technically he isn't sane, so Maya probably wouldn't have wanted that. But they were definitely friendly enough for him to warrant something more than just friendship, I think.
Sure, sure.
So yeah, maybe it was more on his end and less on hers.
I like you say, I really liked how they introduced her because I think that gave a lot more
When I
substance to the
saw her, I was
story.
like, "Oh my god, she's back! That's insane! I
Oh,
can't
I
believe she's right
know,
there right now." I
I
was so
know.
surprised. I was like, "Oh my god!"
I was like, oh, but we didn't ever get. I remember. I think someone of the developer team said that we were going to get more story about Maya's apprentice, but we never did in the DLC. So I don't know whether they cut that out or it's in a DLC yet released. I don't know, but I thought that's what they said. I don't know, but maybe
No,
not. Maybe they said
cannot
Maya.
cannot confirm nor deny.
I don't know. Well, and then the free stuff, Jay. The free stuff.
Yeah, I think
Um,
I only really participated in two of the larger free stuff things,
yeah,
which was the cartel and then the Halloween thing.
yeah. You didn't
Did I
do the
do that?
Valentine's Day. Was it Valentine's
I
Day?
think I might have touched it, but very like barely.
What do you? What were your thoughts on
I
these
really like
free?
the cartel. The cartel was probably my favorite one actually.
Yeah, that was cool. Really cool. Really cool.
Yeah, it
I
lasted a
think
long time as well.
I think they're great if you're a Borderlands 3 hardcore. I think they're fine for a once playthrough if you're casual.
Yeah, no, yeah, makes sense. Yeah, it was a good grind. It was a good grind for legendary weapons.
Yeah,
It's quite
sure.
fun. Yeah,
And
well,
something to do. Something to do. On the more technical side, Jay, I don't really know that much about the balances and nerfs or whatever they're called, whatever
there's a lot of
the
them.
updates they've done and stuff. In terms of builds and things like that, do you think they've made sensible and right decisions in that field since the game's been out?
Yes, I think I don't know. I can't tell whether or not they've nerfed Moe's yet because I haven't like tested enough
Right.
to find out really. But I'm pretty sure they've taken away a lot of things that were too overpowered, and then given a lot of things back that were quite overpowered. So they're still trying to like. I don't think that they can balance it enough to make it like balancing in Borderlands basically means that you make every character overpowered enough in one particular instance. You basically give them one thing that makes them so overpowered that they're actually kind of stuck like stupidly broken, but then you make everything else about them not that good, which is kind of what every character has. Like Amara's good at survivability and melee, which she can do some pretty ridiculous stuff with, but it's very difficult to get there. Moe's is more about splash damage and surviving. Zane is more about like trickery with his decoy and surviving and doing mass amount of damage. And then Flak is more about like critical hits and damage and being like very glass cannony. So, and they all do that very well. So I can't really complain.
Sweet. Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah, balancing wise, like they've changed a lot, but I don't think it's necessarily for the worse. I'd say more for the better. Definitely,
Yeah. Yeah.
definitely.
All right. Well, all in all, I think we're very positive on Borderlands 3, and I think it should, like, as you mentioned at the start of the show slash episode, Jay, it should be a template of games moving forward, perhaps. I think it's a template of cooperative gameplay, single player gameplay, of how you keep players engaged, a bit like Odyssey in this respect,
Or
with just
Destiny,
or Destiny, perhaps
similar.
more Odyssey in the sense that it's just more content.
Yeah,
Like you're not trying to make a loop. I mean, I know Borderlands 3 has a lot of loop, but what I mean is you can play it single player and they're just giving you more. They're just
yeah,
giving you more.
yeah. Because there isn't like a matchmaking way of doing the game. Like you can't just like go to a lobby and play with people. You kind of have to invite people, which is what you'd expect a game like this to potentially have, but it doesn't
No,
really
no,
need
you
it.
can. You can.
You can?
Yeah, you can matchmake a campaign. Circle of Slaughter, all that stuff.
No, I mean like, oh, you can?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, well there you go. I never really needed to,
You
so I
can
guess that's
join.
been my issue.
I think you can. Yeah, I'm not sure whether it's a matchmake or you join specific people's games. I don't know
Oh,
what the
okay, sure,
criteria
sure,
you
sure.
set is, but yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
on there. It's on there.
Okay, okay.
But in terms of the future of Borderlands 3, Jay, I think it's looking very bright. We're getting another DLC later this year, which we talked about in the
Crossplay.
show.
Oh, finally. My
Cross-platform.
God.
We're so playing that, dude.
Literally the biggest thing. Like, if I could have asked for anything and nothing else, it would have been that. Definitely.
Agreed.
And then also new skill trees. So
Yeah.
much. Like if they're not going to give us new characters, just give us new skill trees then.
So apart from this DLC that they've talked about, which is coming out in the future,
Oh.
how many more DLCs can you really expect for this game, Jay? For us, four candles for us.
Yeah. Well, the amount I would want is anywhere between 4 and 8 more.
Wow.
And
Okay.
something that's probably more realistic is probably somewhere between 2 and 6, or maybe 2 and 4. Like I can expect this to be at least another year long of gameplay. Anything more than that is probably asking maybe a bit too much. So maybe like 2 at minimum, 8 at most. But that's like large DLCs.
Mm.
That's like not including all the small stuff. If we're talking about
Yeah.
including all the small stuff, then a lot more, obviously.
Yeah. I like this. Yeah, I hope they keep doing the
I
free
kind of,
little
I
things.
do like the free small stuff, but I really hate that they're limited. It really annoys me. I kind of wish they could just like stick around and you can choose to do them if you want to. Like if
Sure.
maybe you could just like
Sure.
you could choose to do the loop if you wanted to.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah, it kind of annoys
I
me.
think and I don't know whether this was recent or in that show they did, but they said that it sold 10 million copies, which is great, I think.
More than good. That's like,
Yeah.
I mean, if a company can sell 100,000 copies, is ridiculous, you know.
Well, I think it's extra special because of how Battleborn didn't land how they hoped.
Oh, see,
And
Battleborn's one of my favorite games.
you're crazy.
Like legit, I played that game on and off for like 2 years. It's so good. Chef's Kiss is so good.
I hope that they're now in a better financial place because of the success of Borderlands 3 is all.
Oh yeah, massively.
What do you think? I know they're starting to publish their own games, which is really cool. What do you think the future of Gearbox Software, the people who make Borderlands, what do you think their future is? I know that
You see,
they're
I kind
working
of
on
hope
DLC, but
that after Borderlands 3, there isn't a Borderlands 4 for at least another 8 to 10 years.
yeah, me too.
I kind of want them to do their own, like a new thing, but maybe either set in the Borderlands universe or just with the same graphics. Maybe just like its own thing, like a separate game that's like Borderlands but isn't Borderlands, or maybe they just make a new game that isn't shell shaded. Just make a new game.
I think a spin-off could be good. Brothers in
They can
Arms,
they can either
potentially.
take this money and make a new Borderlands with it, or they can make a new game and take a bit of a gamble. Because if they made
What
Borderlands 4 in 5 years from now, guaranteed money, guaranteed. You either go with the guaranteed money or you just take a gamble and hope
well,
you
I
do
think
something.
they made the gamble with Battleborn and it didn't turn out well.
No, I'm talking about from now.
No, I know, but they got money from Borderlands 2, hugely successful, and they did the risk of making Battleborn not Borderlands 3, and I don't think it paid out, so I'm not sure whether they would do that
I mean,
again.
they definitely made their money back with Battleborn.
Do you think? I hope
I can
so.
almost guarantee it. Yeah, like
I
that
hope
game
so.
was definitely played enough.
Right, okay.
I just don't think they made enough money of a profit for it to be.
A
Like they basically
franchise.
for it to
Yeah.
be good enough to be able to make something else after the fact. Like the thing with Battleborn is probably it's one of the like if I had made a game and it made its money back and then a tiny bit more, I would have been happy. As long as I'd loved making the game enough, I probably would have been happy.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
But
yeah,
if you're
yeah,
expecting
yeah.
to make a game but that makes its money back and then doubles it, then you need to go with more of a safe option. Yeah,
Yeah,
with
yeah.
like a new Borderlands. So yeah, either make Borderlands 4 over the next 4 or 5 years, or 7 years, or don't, or potentially don't bother with anything else, I guess. But if you can, I mean, they can definitely take a pinch of that money and make something good in between, something fun at least. Even if you make a game that only lasts a year, that's still like worth it to me.
Yeah, 100%.
Like the fact that Battleborn was a thing, I think is still worth it. It was definitely worth making it because
Okay.
like in the end, they've learned enough to know what they could use from that game in other things they make.
That's
They
true.
can improve on it. The only place to go is up with Battleborn. Only go up. You can just take things from it and improve upon it, like they've done with Borderlands 2. Take it and improve upon it and put it in Borderlands 3. Same thing. It makes sense. Just improve on what you already know. Because the thing is, you don't know you can do it until you've done it. And now they know they can do Battleborn, so they can do an improvement on it in some instance.
I think Borderlands 3 is such a high, dude. Like, it's
It
that
really is.
kind of. I want to compare it to Endgame, but I don't think it's like a. It's just that thing. It's a bit like Return of the King, where it just meets what you want, what you need. Like, it's the Force Awakens, right? It's like it's what you needed, it's what you wanted, and it just delivers, and then some.
Force Awakens?
Yeah, I think the Force Awakens at the time delivered what we wanted.
Yeah, but then after the fact, kind of not so much.
Let's ignore that bit. But what I mean is coming out the
Started out
cinema.
well, but then
What I
diminished
mean
later
is
on.
coming out the cinema. I think what all I'm trying to say is like it doesn't feed us that that fan servicey stuff that Force Awakens did. But all I'm trying to illustrate is that we got our finale of Borderlands, as it were,
We
and it
got
was
our fix. We got
yeah,
our
and it was great. It was
yeah.
so good, Jay. It was so. I look back on Borderlands 3 and all I think is positivity.
Yeah, there's no negative for me.
No.
Zero, none of it. And I'm very glad about that. Very glad.
I think they took their time. I think the
Definitely.
marketing was pretty much great, apart from some of the stuff
I
in the
remember when
middle
they
there.
showed off the tech demo a couple of years after the last Borderlands game, and I was like, wow, this next one's going to be good.
Yeah.
Because I
Yeah.
remember looking at it and being like, this game is nowhere near finished, but
Yeah.
it's going to be good when it finally comes. And this was like
Yeah.
this was maybe 2014. Seeing a
Sure.
tech demo, this was like right after the last Borderlands, and I was like, wow, this looks like they've improved a lot since then, even so. And it looks even better than that tech demo did now. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's insane.
Yeah.
But with the next gen, it's going to be even better. I kind of hope they potentially even just improve on the graphics with the next game.
Yeah, I guess we'll see, right? With these optimized versions.
Yeah, I wonder what Borderlands 3 is going to play like on the next console.
Because I think you can go in and make it 4K, make it 60 frames, but
Yeah, you
like
can't
you
really get it
say,
much better though. Like the game isn't going to be that much better just because it's on a new console. It'll be the best it could possibly be, but it won't be like a new game. It'll just be the
no,
same
yeah, no, no.
game, but just
But I do
different.
wonder if they will make slight graphical changes. That will be interesting to see.
I mean, maybe some slight details, maybe more prevalent, but the fact, but if you walk up to a texture in Borderlands 3, you get the closer you get, the worse it looks. Right, that's the whole point. It's supposed to be like a painting. The further away you get, the better it looks. That's the point
Yeah,
of the game. So
yeah,
I don't think you couldn't make Borderlands look better. I don't think.
sure, sure.
Like it's stylized in a very specific cell shaded way. Jesus, so difficult to say.
To be fair, I do think there's quite a lot of texture popping issues for Borderlands 3 from what I play, but
I
it
don't
could be
really
my
care about that
Xbox.
though, to be honest. Like
Yeah, me
Borderlands
neither.
kind of lends itself to being a bit janky, the same way Fallout does. Like to me, if
Sure.
Borderlands wasn't janky, I wouldn't want to play it as much. Same with Fallout. Like Fallout lends itself to being janky. That's the whole point.
I think polish is good.
Polish
It
is good,
immerses
but
you.
a little bit of jank. It's quite nice.
You like it.
Like yeah, I like a bit of jank here and there.
Bit of janking.
Bit of janking. It's good. It's nice. It's nice to have.
Anything
Just
else,
not when
Jay?
it
You
completely
wanna?
demolishes the game. But there you go.
Anything
Avengers.
else, Jay, that you wanna maybe cover on this retrospective
Yes.
of Borderlands 3?
Mayhem mode.
Oh, of course, of course.
I think that was probably the biggest, like, a most amazing thing they could have done with the game because it added a difficulty setting that was even better and rewarded you for it as well. Like proper reward, like 1,000 times more likely to get a piece of gear than not so on, the difference between Mayhem 1 and 10. And I'm able to consistently do Mayhem 10 and well. So I'm like, okay, I'm constantly getting good rewards. It's like I'm being fed constantly. It's great. It's amazing. I literally couldn't ask for anything more. I like Borderlands 3 for me has hit its pinnacle. And I guess technically the only way it can go is down, but it can probably at least sustain where it's at for me. Like as long as it can ride this high, I'm fine. Like it's there. I mean, they definitely. I mean, I'm sure there probably is ways to improve this game. I just don't know what it is yet. I couldn't tell you how to improve it because for me, it's as good as it can ever get. Really.
That's such a great point. You look at it, and there were some improvements that they could have made, and they did make. And now you look at it and think, I pretty much have everything I want in this game.
The only way this game can get better is if you can surprise me with what you show me next.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all you ever can really want from any game. Is as long as you can surprise me with what's coming and it's not too obvious. Cool.
When I was growing up, Ratchet and Clank was always the template in terms of here's how you do New Game Plus, right?
Sure.
And almost every game I played, I would want the game to have New Game Plus because I just thought, well, don't you want? I want to play you again with the same loadout. Let me go through the game again. And one of the absolute heartbreaks of that was Knights of the Old Republic 2, which didn't have a New Game Plus, and if it did, it would just make the game 10 times better, right? And now, like, a lot of single-player games have New Game Plus, which is great. But Borderlands 3 doubled down and evolutionized on that with Mayhem mode. And it just made it...
We already had True Vault Hunter mode, and then we even had more of that with the Mayhem. Yeah, exactly. We didn't get Mayhem 10 until later on. It was 1 through 4 initially.
Yeah.
And then because it evolved twice.
Yeah.
Like, the fact that a mechanic can evolve and then evolve again, it was like playing Pokemon.
Well, wasn't it 1 through 3, then 4, then 10?
Yeah, exactly. So it literally evolved. It went from starter Pokemon to middle Pokemon to last evolution.
Well, literally. And the brilliant thing about Mayhem is that if True Vault Hunter mode is too hard or, like, not enjoyable in terms of a challenge point of view for people like me, you just go on Mayhem 1 and 2, and it's like the in-between of...
Yeah, it is genuine, like the scale of where your playability and love of the game is. Like, for me, my favourite was 4 for like forever, right? And then it evolved to 6 after a little while, and then I went straight to 10. It was just like, right, I'm there already. Like, I don't need to be on 7, 8, and 9 because it doesn't really make much of a difference. Like, the difference between 6 and 10 really is such a good enough of a leap that I might as well just be at 10 and not bother with 9 because I'm not getting the same experience. So
yeah.
It just it worked perfectly. It was brilliant.
I mean, we're getting 60 frames per second. It's coming to next gen. We're getting 4-player split screen. I mean, what more could you possibly want from this game? I mean,
the only thing I want now is to be surprised. That's all I want. I want them the next DLC to be so surprising that it kind of just like, wow, I did not see that coming.
Yeah, and for the record, I would want them to just work on the DLC and really allow it to be the best it can be, the same way, we want all games to be. I wouldn't want them to feel like they need to rush it out.
No.
Even though they might feel that way because Borderlands 3 probably is on a time limit in terms of other games coming out and stuff like that. But
yeah, I mean, this next year for Borderlands 3 is going to be is going to decide a lot about the future. Because there's going to be a lot of games coming out in the next year that's going to really define the gaming, decade, essentially. Like, 2021 is going to be the year of deciding what happens for the next 9 years, basically. Like, what money is made this year and next year is going to decide what happens in the next 10 years,
That is true.
So that's going to be the defining... This is the thing that I feel like there's always, like, defining years during a decade of gaming. Like, for me, from 2010 to 2020... the defining years were probably like 2016 to 2018, maybe even to 2019 if you really count some things. But everything before that wasn't really that important, not massively. Like, all the best games came out between 2016 and 2019.
I think for this gen, but I think looking back, 2012 and 2013 had some incredible games.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they did, but because they were so long ago, you don't really think about them as much as comparing them to the last 5 years.
Yeah,
I think the second half of the decade feels more important when you're in it, but maybe isn't as much as important as when you're not in it. Does that make sense? Like, when you're not there, when you're in the first half, it seems extremely important, but when you're in the second half, the last half didn't really feel that important, and so on and so on. So 2020 to 2025 is going to feel more important than 2015 to 2020, when in reality it might not be. Just depending. We don't know yet because we haven't got there, so we'll see.
I will say that 2017 to 2018 were just unbelievable years for gaming anyway.
Ridiculously good.
Ridiculously good.
I mean, you could say 2020 was a massive one too. Like, every year's a good one, but 2013 to 2015 was pretty awful, honestly.
I think 2013 was good. Yeah,
Like,
Bioshock Infinite,
there
The
was
Last of
some.
Us.
Bioshock Infinite was a massive letdown for me. Like, I haven't played it, but for me, like even like the whole Bioshock trilogy, I guess, was just like a massive disappointment to me. But looking back on it, I have zero love for it, really.
Following from the first game.
Same with Gears as well. Like Gears of War, kind of like I don't really care. Even though at one point I cared a lot about the first two games, I care so little about them now.
But it doesn't mean you didn't care about them at the time.
Yeah, but I think a game should be more looked at from its longevity rather than its initial appeal. Does that make sense?
I think there's a debate there.
We should definitely debate that at some point.
I was just gonna say, Jay, how much stuff are we gonna have to install day one on our Xbox? It's gonna be unreal. Because like we're installing 4K file sizes for every game we have installed right now, basically.
I mean, for me, well, how fast your speed, you know?
Well, yeah.
For me, it shouldn't take that long. It'll probably take 3 to 6 hours,
And to
depending
be
on
fair,
certain things. I don't know.
I guess also, if they haven't been optimized for Series X, they should be the same file size, right? But just run better. The game should just run better.
They'll usually get like between a 5 and 10 gig update most of the time.
Right.
Any type of optimization usually means anywhere from 5 to 10 gigs extra.
Okay, got you.
Because you've just got all these extra files you have to read from. So.
Yeah.
Additional textures and HD-ified stuff.
Yeah. Copy paste 4K.
Yeah, that'll do.
Yeah.
Enlarge.
Focus in.
Yeah.
Enhance.
Enhance. That's what I meant. Enhance. There we go. Well done.
All right, mate. Well, should we wrap up this very strange special? We've just
Sure. Yes. I think we can both agree that Borderlands 3 is pretty legendary in its own right, and has only got, only going to go up. I guess it can go down, but very unlikely. We'll see. Don't want to jinx it, but there we go.
If gamers think about this game with a sober mind, I think it'd be hard to detract from. It's that classic thing, isn't it, Jay? All the gamers are focusing on the negative. A lot of gamers are focusing on a lot of the negatives, or the Twitch, what people are playing now, or the esports. But when you look at a game for a game's sake, it's hard to deny that Borderlands 3 is up there, really.
That's another good debate there. The debate about whether or not a game is should be talked about more for its negativity side of stuff or the positive. If a game has more negatives than positives, most of the time the game is going to be talked about those negatives and vice versa. That makes sense? Like if a game has too much wrong with it, you're probably going to be all the headlines are going to be what's wrong with it, never what's right with it.
Yeah.
And then if a game's really, really good, it's going to be about everything that's good with it and there's nothing that's wrong about it.
Well, I don't know about that.
I'd say most of the time.
I would say
like Last of Us 2 was a great example of that. Avengers is a great example because there's a lot wrong with it. So on and so on. No, any game that has some level of controversy or any level of negative marketing or the way it's perceived by people, it'll always the things people are going to click on are going to be the negative things about that thing.
Yeah.
Very rarely the good things because they don't care about whether it's good or not. They care about what's so wrong with this.
Yeah.
People are just so intrigued about what's wrong with things rather than what's right about things.
Yeah.
They just want to be able to fix things, but they can't because all they do is read about it. Stuff like that. Just makes sense.
Yeah. But Borderlands 3 is great. Look forward to playing it on the Series X. I think it's the last thing to... And look forward to playing cross-platform next year.
Yeah, it'll be the PS5 for me if I ever get it.
Yes, it will.
Yeah.